Yeah, g'day, mate.
Hey, real.
You're up late?
Yeah, I'm about to go to bed, but I'm just listening. Good conversation so far. But my question imposes somewhat on that same like precedent of the Torah. We know the Torah existed from 200 BC in its whatever manuscripts and whatever its forms. It was it was recited in the Jewish temples. So like until the time of like during Muhammad's time, there would have been a Torah, right?
Go ahead, Brother Ali.
You see, this Masoretic text did not exist at the time of my prophet, peace and blessing be with him. So, dude, tell us which Bible do you believe in, which recension do you believe in, and see if that recension existed before. You see, if it is the Masoretic text of the King
Before
James
when?
or of the NIV, no, that text did not exist in the time of my prophet, peace and blessing be with him. But if you say
Yeah, but
the Hebrew text of the Dead Sea Scrolls and whatnot, yes, they existed in some place on earth at the some time on earth, sure. So please tell us which one.
so I read the N or the KJV, so that's
Masoretic.
the Masoretic.
Yeah, so the Masoretic came
Oh,
400 years
And that
after.
was
and
after
also the
Muhammad, right?
ESV as
That was
well.
after Muhammad.
Also Masoretic.
Also Masoretic.
And also after Muhammad. So therefore, no, that they didn't have those versions at
Yeah,
Muhammad's time.
yeah. So when you're
What's
looking at Esther,
in terms of like textual like differences and like between the Septuagint and the Masoretic, could someone explain? Like, I'll probably have to go away and search this up, but if someone could
yeah.
summarize it.
So can I?
Sure. You see, for example, the book of Daniel in the Septuagint has 15% more text than the Masoretic text. Both of them cannot be true. One of them has been corrupted. I'll let you decide. The book of Esther has 50% more text. Think about this. You see, this makes it theological. Esther is one of
Yeah,
the prophetess, female prophets of the Jews. They have 7 female prophets, Sarah being the first one, and Esther being the last, if I'm not mistaken. That Esther, if you go to the Hebrew text of it, nowhere in the whole book the word Yod Hey Vav Hey is mentioned. The Christians of today say any prophet which comes should talk in the name of Yahweh. Esther didn't. So the Esther, the name of Yahweh is not mentioned in the whole Hebrew text. But if you go to the Septuagint, you see it mentioned there. The word God does occur. So the Hebrew text of Esther, not one time the word God occurs in it, not one time. But the Septuagint version of it, the word of God is all over the place. So both of them cannot be true. One of them or both of them has to be changed. So I'm asking you which one has been changed so we can look at the other one which is supposed to be authentic and see if it is authentic.
yeah, perfect. I'll have to. I mean, but so okay. For at one point, the Masoretic, yeah, fair enough, 9th, 10th century, and we have. I'll have to go away and look into the scholarly footnote in regards to what manuscripts they relied on. But even like the Codex
The Masoretes?
Sinaiticus.
Yeah, no. The Masoretes, they relied on Aleppo Codex. You see, they had first the Nash Papyri. Nash Papyri was the oldest fragment of the Old Testament which they had from the 8th century. It was a legernetical text. It was what the rabbis wrote about their understanding of the text. The first text of the Bible is Aleppo and Leningrad Codex, and the Masoretic text is based on that. You see, one of the things which almost nobody talks about for some reason, the Aleppo
Right.
text, when you go to it, has vowels. Those vowels are not Masoretic vowels. They were Palestinian vowels. They came, the Masoretes, they changed even the vowels of it, how you pronounce a text, how you pronounce a word. So the Masoret already changed a vowel, but already existed even in Codex Aleppo. They changed the vowel. The base Masoretic text of today based on that. So even the vowel, the way of reading, the way of writing, all of that comes in the 10th century and later on. How could my Quran be talking about such a text? It's impossible, right?
Potentially, yes. Potentially, it could be impossible. So, how about like the Codex, like Sinaiticus, and the Vaticanus? What manuscripts do they rely on? If the Masoretic is 9th
Beautiful,
century,
beautiful. You see, Sinaiticus does have the Old Testament portion of it, except some of the Genesis and part of other books which they say is lacuna. After that, Vaticanus, as you mentioned, does contain the Old Testament in Greek, both of them. Alexandrianus does contain
from the
the
Septuagint.
Old Testament. Yes, now I get to that. I'm telling you it's Greek version. All of those three have three different recensions. You see, if you know the Septuagint, the first one which we know of is in the letter of Aristeas. According to the letter of Aristeas, which most of the historians today reject, there was a translation made by the 12, by the 6 of the scribes of every tribe of Israel, 72. They came together and they worked on a translation of only the Torah. This was the first mention of it. But what we today have goes back to Sinaiticus. Do you know what Aquila recension is? I can tell you if you don't want.
Real quick, sorry, I do have to go shortly, but I
Sure.
will take this on board. Like,
So you see, in the first century, about the mid second century of Christianity, the Jews made their own translation of it, which is called the Aquila. Aquila is a translation made by a Jew and is a really literal translation of it. Origen, which made his Haxapla, which he put many recensions of the Old Testament, used Aquila. The other one was the Ebionite Christian named Eschimus, which made the Septuagint. Those two are different texts. Even the Septuagint in the second century was different. After that, you have the Lucian text. Vaticanus is mostly a combination between Aquila and a Hoxapellaric text, which Origen made. And many scholars today, as Emmanuel Pop says, Codex Alexandrianus from the 5th century uses the Lucian text. So you have Lucian text, we have the Aquila, we have the Eschimus, and we have the Haxapla. Which one is the one we should go to, and other one has been corrupted? You see, not all four can be true.
I'm just trying to visualize, like, at a point. So fair enough, we have different readings, different manuscripts that whichever religious group in that first century post Jesus did have. But I mean, if it was corrupt, or the claim of corruption, fair enough. Like, but if we advance 600 years later, what was the Torah around the medieval, the Mediterranean Sea, that was in the possession of the Jews and the Christians? That would
This
have
is a
been
very good question, which the Jews and the Christians have to answer. They cannot assume something and come to us and tell us, yes, those people had the Torah. Of course they did. How do you know? I had a dream about it. You cannot assume something, right? These Christians and Jews, which believed there was a Torah in the 7th century, they should answer this. According to me, there is no evidence of this. The earlier Arabic
what?
text, the earliest Arabic text of the Torah which we have comes by Sadia Gaon in the 9th century, 200 years after Islam. So if you say in the time of my prophet, in that area, there was Jews who had the Torah, please tell us, how do you know that? And which Torah do they have?
The Jews of
Your
Yathrib.
assumption is not enough, right?
The Jews of
Yes,
which
the
he made
Jews of Yathrib. How do you know they had the Torah? You see, our Quran in chapter 6, verse 90 and 91 talks about this and said the book which they have in pieces and scraps. Pieces and scraps. If you say the evidence of the 7th century, which is the Quran, as a historical source of the 7th century, It testifies about scraps and pieces of the Torah. And I do believe there were scraps and pieces of the Torah at the time. I don't deny that. But for you all to make the fallacy of composition, to attribute some fragments to the whole of the Old Testament, is a big leap, right? We shouldn't do that. We should be honest and say we don't have
That's your
any.
claim.
It's not my claim. The first one is from the 9th century. If you have any earlier, please educate me. Let me see if you have a Torah in the 7th century, in Yathrib, as you say. Sure, educate me. I don't have no issues with that.
Wait. So does not the Quran mention the Torah in the Gospel? Like, this is, I'm trying to like understand the playing field. So when things like the Torah and the Gospel mentioned throughout the Quran, the Gospel that is between the hands of the Christians, what
Exactly.
like
You see,
this?
I don't know if you are here or not. I told you. You see, Quran talks about the book which was given to Moses. This is the identity of the Torah. This when the Quran says the Torah is the book which we gave on him. The is there is the is of identity. Quran is making identification of the Torah which was given to Moses alayhi salam. So the originally what was given, and also the Quran talks about a Torah which the Jews have in their hands. Yeah, the Torah in their hands and the Torah to Moses. The Torah to Moses is an ease of identity, and the Torah in their hand is an ease of predication. I accept that. The Jews had a text in their hand. I don't deny that. They had a text which they called Torah. I don't deny that. I'm telling you what was that text. You cannot assume it was the same as your Masoretic text. It did not exist. You cannot assume it is the same as the Septuagint. The Septuagint itself has multiple recensions. So your assumptions are not enough. This is my claim. We have no idea what the Torah was at the time. We have no idea. Everything of Arabic Torah comes after that, even of the Hebrew. So if you say no, they must have had my Torah with them. Please, you should prove it, right? I don't make any claims. I'm telling you, we don't know what they have. This is my claim. We don't know. If you know, educate me.
There you go. Thanks very much.